Through our time in Introduction to Philosophy, we have looked at a number of important areas of philosophy, including uh, where is the mind, what is consciousness, what does it mean to have an identity, what is God, what does God mean, um, what is a philosophy of education, what is a philosophy of the other person, how do we relate to each other, what are philosophies of governance. We've looked at a lot of areas of philosophy. One of the major ones that we have not looked at explicitly yet is the area of ethics. Ethics is one of the foundational parts of philosophy, going back to the ancient Greeks and trying to decide what it means to be ethical. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. You've done some readings of that this week that are important readings, and that have given you some clue into some major areas of philosophy. So today's lecture is just going to kind of give you an overview of philosophy and some things that I think that are important to think about when it comes to um, ethics and the area of philosophy. One thing I guess I would ask is, um, why shouldn't I kill you? I walk into a classroom, and and when you take a live class and you have a seat and it's your seat and you've locked it in, even if there's not assigned seating, you always sit in the same place. You walk in someday, and then there's some dweeb who is taking your seat and is sitting in your seat. Why shouldn't you kill that person? You cut me off on the highway, even though you were going really slow, so I passed you and that made you mad, and then you cut me off. Why shouldn't I kill you? You're wearing a mask and I don't believe in masks. Why shouldn't I kill you? What is it that keeps me from moving from being this a person living in a society into um, just a more primal nature? We don't have to necessarily go to killing. You've got a Twinkie. I like Twinkies. I want a Twinkie. Why shouldn't I take your Twinkie? Uh, you've got lots of money. I have no money. Why shouldn't I take some of your money? Or we could turn that around. You've got lots of money. You want more money. Why shouldn't you take my money? We have a lot of different ways of thinking about ethics. I want to think about farting. Do I have an ethical responsibility to you not to fart when we're in the same room? Do I have an ethical responsibility to you to say, excuse me, I'm going to fart if I'm going to fart while we're in the same room? I mean, farting is a part of who we are, right? It's part of our human nature, and sometimes we just can't help it. We fart. What is our ethical responsibility to each other in the realm of farting? It's not against the law. As far as I know, there are no gods that came out with rules about farting. We have some social graces about farting, but very seldom do we tell each other no farting is allowed. I wonder what is the ethics of farting. We're not going to go very far with that, but it's a interesting question to move from why shouldn't I kill you to can I fart in your general direction? The rules that you see here up on your screen are rules for a pool. I've always thought the no diving on the shallow end rule picture on pool walls is always terrifying. Um, so, one of the questions that we have about ethics often is it just a system of rules? Do we just make up rules for each other? Or what happens if we disagree with the rules? What happens if one group over here agrees, another group over here doesn't? What do we do to figure things out? Is ethics just about rules, laws, what we tell each other we should or should not do? What is ethics? Well, in order to start with what is ethics and how we talk about this, and just in case you don't recognize this picture, this only happened a couple of years ago when mask mandates were across the country, trying to make sure that we could get back into schools or trying to make sure we could get back into public before there was a vaccine, and trying to figure out what the rules should be as we were negotiating that as a society, and a whole lot of people took it very personally that we might have to wear a mask. Um, Other people took it very personally that some people weren't wearing masks. It was a big thing. I don't know if you remember. To try to figure out about what ethics are, it might be worth saying what ethics are not. Ethics do not come from law. They do not come from rules. They do not come from nature or feelings or parents or gods or, regrettably, teachers. Ethics are not the laws that we make for each other that we all have to follow. Most of us, I suppose. They are not the rules that are up on a law. They don't tell us what to think about right or wrong actions when they're just rules. Ethics are not nature. Nature doesn't care whether or not we live an ethical life. Now, some people would say that as a religious belief that nature cares, but quite often I'll do something like I'll buy a lottery ticket, and then I won't win, and then I'll think, oh man, I should have mowed the lawn. I would have been a better person. Maybe I would have won then. Ethics don't come from nature. They don't come from feelings. Just because you feel something is right or wrong doesn't mean that it's ethical. Ethics don't come from parents, although they start there. Our ethics often start with our parents because they are our first ethical role models. They don't come from parents. Your parents' ethics are not necessarily yours, and they don't come from God's. God's may tell us what to do, what to think, what to feel, how to act, but that's not ethics. And ethics don't come from teachers. Again, regrettably. Just because I tell you something, just because I try to convince you that something is ethical, does not mean that that's necessarily ethical. Ethics are something other than just what we tell each other to do. So what are ethics? Well, ethics create a framework for making decisions that are logical, moral, and acceptable by others. So that is, they give us a way of making decisions about how to act in public, and those decisions must be seen as being logical and moral and acceptable by others in order for it to reach a standard of ethics. So ethics are kind of a shared a shared mode of thinking, although your ethics may not be the same as mine. The fact that we can share these and talk about them make them ethical. Ethics is first and foremost an area of philosophy, which means that being logical and being moral and being acceptable by others is key. What this means is that if I fart and you don't hear me or you don't smell me, then maybe that's not an ethical decision at all. If there's a Twinkie sitting there and no one has claimed it, no one has ownership over it, maybe it's not an ethical decision at all. Or maybe it is. Because what we have to do is decide, how does this decision, how would it be looked at as being logical or moral or acceptable in a philosophical realm? Ethics can apply to very many parts of our lives, but here are the four major ones. There is a normative ethics, and that is an ethics that says what is normal. What should we feel right about? What should we feel wrong about? What is pretty universal across the standards of what is ethical? So if you go to most cultures, you may not find ethics about paying taxes, but you will find ethics about lying. And most cultures will have some ethical standard of truth telling. That varies according to the culture that you're in, but most have some standard of truth telling. There's the social ethics as well. And the social ethics is how do we relate to each other in the public stage, in the public sphere, and that can go to all different kinds of things, from how we navigate a parking lot, to how we pay taxes, to who deserves to have some help in society, who doesn't. I'll also throw in there, because it's an important one right now. Social ethics can also include what is just, what is right and wrong on a city-wide scale, on a statewide scale, on a national scale, and on an international scale. So there's this thing called just war theory. That's a type of ethics, and it tells us whether or not a war is just. And what we will find, especially if we look at the two major conflicts that are in the news today, is that neither one of those kind of meet up with the qualifications of just war theory. Both would be unjust according to ethical thinking. There's also a professional ethics. As an instructor, I have a professional ethics. As a student, you have a professional ethics, and we have to make those work within our professional settings. For example, one of our professional ethics in this class is the idea that we do not plagiarize or use other people's work and represent it as our own. We don't use AI. That is a ethical standard in this classroom. Whether or not you've agreed to it, it is the standard of the classroom. It is the professional ethics that I have. And so once we have that ethic, we have a way of assessing our actions. And then there's a personal ethics. You have your own ethics where you can decide how hard you work, how much you put in, how much thought you put in, how much you care about something. Those are all personal ethics. From the realm of all the different types of ethics that we might engage in, there are also different ethical approaches. And this is just some random ones, and we could do more. Ubuntu is not on here. Care ethics and feminist ethics are not on here. But those are some of the ones that we're reading this week. We've got relativism. That is, it's all relative. It doesn't matter. It's from situation to situation. That's how you make decisions. It's institutionalism. That means that the ethics are founded by the institutions that surround you. It's deontological. That means there is a larger sense of truth and right and wrong, usually leading to some kind of spiritual sense. It's intuitionalism. That means it's an interior sense of ethics, ethics that grows out of what each person knows in their body. There's utilitarianism. That is the ethics of what leads to the most satisfaction or happiness for the most people. That's one of the ones we're reading for this week. And then there's contractarianism, the idea that we make social contracts, like Rousseau. We also have, of course, Ubuntu, which is an important one, the idea that your ethics must be decided by the well-being of the person sitting next to you, or feminist ethics that says that we don't need rulers or leaders or laws to tell us what is right and wrong. We decide this together in community as a group of equals. There are other types of ethical theories, but these are the major ones. I'm not expecting that through our reading this week that you're going to necessarily say, aha, there's my team, I'm going to join the deontological approach, or there's my team, I'm now going to be an Ubuntuist. Although I think you'd probably be leading yourself to a pretty ethical life if you decided to focus on Ubuntu. What this week is about is exposing you to the philosophy of ethics. But I do think it's important for us as professionals, as students, as adults, as citizens, to start thinking about our ethical structures. What is it that will help you decide how to proceed in your life, in your classes, in your work, in your family, in your communities, in your city and state and nation? What will help you proceed and help you determine what is right, what is wrong, how should you act, how should others act? And starting from a basic structure. Oh, utilitarianism really appeals to me. Oh, feminist ethics really appeals to me. Oh, Ubuntu really appeals to me. Starting from a basic structure will give you some sense of what is ethical. Now, most people don't ever think about it at this level. Most people believe that their morality comes from God or parents or teachers, or that it comes from the rules and laws around them. Most people don't consider what it means to have a framework to build upon and to assess with. Ethics provides you with that kind of framework. And that framework can do pretty amazing things. Ethical frameworks change the world. They change the world through historical events. They change the world through the ways that we talk to each other. They change the world through the things that are written. What you see here is the very famous painting of the signing of the Declaration of Independence for the United States, where the representatives from the different colonies came together and wrote a letter to King George saying, "We are now independent." And it's a document that is based completely within ethics. What is ethical for leadership? What is ethical for citizens? That document is completely an ethical document. When you have a framework, you can change the world. And here, one way that the world changes is by being able to say, this war is unjust because of these ethical standards we have agreed upon. This war is illegal because of these ethical standards. Or this act by this student is wrong, is unethical because it didn't meet these standards. This act by this politician is unethical. When you have a framework, you can start to apply that framework across many different situations, and it gives you a way of understanding what is ethical within those situations. Again, leading you to an ability to think logically and about moral issues that is in a way that's acceptable to others. I hope you're enjoying this week. Ethics is actually one of my primary emphases in my own philosophical work as a philosopher, and it's something that I care very much about. In fact, I care so much about it. I'm teaching Introduction to Ethics course in the fall, Philosophy 139, Section 1, Fall 2024. This one's going to be live and in person, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2:10 to 3:30, and it's going to be ongoing class discussions. So unlike this course where you are reading everything, you have some readings in ethics as well. I'm not a teacher who kind of gives up on reading, but we come in and we talk about it, and we talk in great detail, and we have projects, and it's a lot of fun and a great course. I got to teach it live for the first time last semester, and I'm going to be teaching it again in the fall, and I'm really looking forward to it. I will warn you that if we come together in class together, that there may be some farting. It happens once you start to relax yourself into that situation. I hope you're enjoying the week. I want to give you one warning before I close this. That is that this class ends on the 24th officially, but that's the day my grades, no, it's the 24th, I think. But that's the day my grades are due. So all of your work for this class will be due on June 22nd. That means next week is a short week. The work will represent that shortness, but you have a short week next week. All your journals that you need to have in, that you need to make up, those all have to be in by June 22nd. Your project has to be turned in by June 22nd, and your final exam will have to be done by June 22nd. You'll have from Thursday to Saturday to do it. Be aware that deadline is coming up, and you need to be prepared for it. That's it. Have a great week. Go be ethical.